In this video, you'll get a quick overview of the heavy metals test. I'll explain the Vibrant advantage and the technology used, then I'll walk through each section of the test, highlighting key features. I'll also suggest complementary tests and end by summarizing key takeaways and where to go for additional information. Heavy metals toxicity is an underrepresented root cause of illness and disease in humans. It is thought to affect over 1 million individuals each year and can impact virtually all biological systems. Heavy metals may be the root cause of common neurological disorders, gastrointestinal disorders, autoimmune diseases, and disorders associated with increased oxidative stress and cellular dysfunction. Vibrant's Heavy Metals measures the levels of 20 heavy metals. The heavy metals test can be ordered as a blood and/or urine test and measures heavy metals present in the blood or excreted in the urine, respectively. Regardless of the collection method, we use ICP-MS, inductively coupled plasma with mass spectrometry. ICP-MS is considered the gold standard in heavy metals testing as it detects elements down to the parts per quadrillion level. So how small is parts per quadrillion? Well, if you had a pie and cut that pie into a quadrillion pieces, that's one with 15 zeros after it, the mass spec instrument Vibrant uses for heavy metals can detect one tiny piece of that pie. Pretty powerful. Before we dive into the actual report, I want to remind you that you can now choose how much information to include in the report you download for yourself or the report you share with your patients. You have 3 options: summary, interpretation, and full report. I'll be going over the full report in this video as it is the most comprehensive. Let's start with a quick overview. The heavy metals sample report includes a cover page, which lists the sample type and the results interpretation key. It also includes an introduction, including the methodology and interpretation of report, and I highly recommend reading this page, especially the part where it says reference ranges are flagged with a caret if they were determined based on NHANES data if available. Other reference ranges are established based on urine samples from 1,000 apparently healthy individuals. This page also explains which percentile each color corresponds to. The sample report also includes a summary page, which shows moderate and high-risk results, and then finally the full report that lists all 20 analytes. The results are reported as both a number and also plotted graphically so you can visually see how high or low your patient's heavy metals exposure is. A result in green corresponds to the 0 to 75th percentile and indicates mild exposure. For example, this patient has extremely low levels of aluminum, less than 3, which is well below the reference range of 45.15. A yellow result, corresponding to the 75th to 95th percentile, indicates moderate exposure. For example, this patient has moderate levels of tellurium at 0.64. Notice that the reference range is set at the 95th percentile, 0.89. Therefore, this patient's tellurium levels are technically within the reference range. Vibrant created the yellow category to help you motivate your patients to take action when levels are getting close to that reference range. And finally, results in red correspond to levels greater than the 95th percentile. The 95th percentile indicates your patient's exposure is higher than 95% of the population. If you want to learn more about moderate and high exposure heavy metals like tellurium and tungsten for this patient, simply scroll back to the report summary to read the interpretive comment. The interpretive comment includes possible sources, associated risks, and detox suggestions. One last thing to point out is creatinine. All urine tests should measure urine creatinine. This is because urine can have varied concentrations. Sometimes it's pale yellow, and sometimes it's a colorless school bus. Good news, urine creatinine is constant. So all heavy metals are normalized to urine creatinine to account for urine dilution variations. Before we talk about complementary tests, I want you to think about Dr. Sidney Baker's TAC rules. Rule number 1, if you're sitting on a TAC, it takes a lot of aspirin to make the pain go away. In other words, it's difficult to heal if you don't identify the root cause of your symptoms. Rule number 2, if you're sitting on 2 TACs, removing one does not necessarily result in 50% improvement in symptoms. In other words, sometimes there's more than one toxin contributing to your symptoms. In addition to heavy metals, also consider exploring exposure to mycotoxins, environmental toxins, and PFAS to investigate and reduce total toxic burden. Also consider the hepatic and renal function panels to investigate liver and kidney function, which impact detoxification and elimination. The gut zoomer to investigate microbial overgrowth burden, intestinal hyperpermeability, and/or elevated beta-glucuronidase impacting detoxification and elimination. Micronutrients to assess intracellular and extracellular micronutrients required for phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification pathways, and because many heavy metals deplete critical nutrients such as antioxidants and minerals. The oxidative stress profile to assess if free radicals formed by heavy metal exposure are using up your client's antioxidants and contributing to accelerated aging, and also hormones, be it serum, saliva, and/or urine, to investigate heavy metal toxicity impact on hormones and reproductive symptoms. In conclusion, the Vibrant Heavy Metals test measures 20 heavy metals so that you know if toxic burden is contributing to neurological symptoms, respiratory symptoms, cardiovascular and hematological symptoms, gastrointestinal symptoms, skeletal and bone-related symptoms, dermatological symptoms, renal and hepatic symptoms, or reproductive symptoms. By identifying heavy metals in the urine or blood, you can devise a plan to reduce exposure, increase elimination, and promote healing today. If you have any questions, go to vibrantwellness.com to learn more.